So welcome everyone. We've got quite a few in the room today, so it's fantastic. We're going to be looking at creating activities in Moodle, and we're going to look at what you can create in Moodle, what can you do by using the H5P, and also there's a plugin called Games, and we mentioned that in the last community of practice, and Julie Day from Federation Training has got that plugin, so she's going to show that what it can do and see whether, you know, we may decide that we want to use that plugin also. So that's it. We've got a pretty big agenda. So what I thought I might do first is actually show you some of the 5HP and in different categories, and then we might go to Julie to show the games plugin, what kind of games you can create using that plugin, and then we'll go to Colin, who's going to show us one of the great features in Moodle called the lesson. And the lesson is a way that you can show content and create some activities. So he'll go into all that detail, which will be fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing just for a second because I want to flick over to the other screen. So just one moment. And share desktop. Okay, so I want to share this desktop. Now you should be able to see my Moodle. Can you, everyone see that? Now just unfortunately, yeah, my chat's come up again. Yes, can. So that's great. Thank you, Joanne. So here you'll see I've just got this is a Moodle shell, and it's got all the different types of H5P activities you can use. There's so many of them and they're just fantastic. I just love H5P because it's something that is really easy to use and create some fantastic interactive content and activities. And you can now embed, which is, oh, wonderful. So excited. So in the learning activities, we've got, these are really, really good. You've got all different ones. So I'm just going to go through them briefly. I'm not going to show you how to create them. If you are interested in me going through demonstrating how to create them, please let me know and we can run another community of practice on it. But on the H5P site, there is some really, really great tutorials that show you how to use things. So also go there. The audio recorder example, this is an interesting one. It says count to 5 in French. So you could record counting 1 to 5 in French, and then the teacher then can mark it. So once you've done, it's done. Okay, I can't count French. You can download it, and then you can upload it into an assignment or into a whatever method the teacher wants it. So you can download the file, which I think is brilliant. So other one that you can use is the dialogue cards. Now, I remember my daughter studying music, and we used to have to use cards, and she would have to say what each was, what it was. So it is a really great method of remembering things. So this, for instance, is showing blueberries in a different language, and then saying what they will mean. So it's just sort of seeing the different ones. So it could be a learning activity, so it to help people learn. This one, guess the answer example. So you have a look at a picture or something, you guess the answer, and then you reveal the answer in that case. So again, it's just a way of testing yourself rather than having someone do it with you. Image hotspots. This is quite an interesting one too. In fact, this is really good because not only can you just put text up there, you can actually put videos, interactive videos. So if I clicked on the first one, it actually gives me some information about blueberries. Right? I click on this one, which is the raspberry, and actually comes up with a YouTube video showing how to create raspberry ice cream tart. Strawberry. It actually another video and how to grow and harvest strawberry plants. Now I'm just going to get rid of, oh, I've gone into full screen. Sorry, exit full screen. Oh, done there. Okay, go back. And again, some text. So you can have an image of something and then have all these different interactive things happening. And that could really unclog all the data on your Moodle, you know, if you're creating different activities. So you can sort of make it look really, really nice. Okay, I'm just going to, I've just gone into full screen here. I've just got to try and get it back. Okay, that's it. So go back to learning activities and scroll down. So that was the image hotspot. This one's image, I'm not going to say that one, but I'll show you how it works. It just means that you can have two images and you can have it showing like that. So you could even have anatomy of some sort and then showing it how it goes from one to the other. There's two images side by side. You have to use your imagination on that one, how you would use it. So that's your learning activities. Now I'm just scrolling down. Image sequencing. This is a really good way of learning too. So for instance here, we've got parts of the body and you just have to put them in the order. So you put them in the order. So the ear. And then you check. So it doesn't have to be an image. It could be steps in a process that you want to, and it actually, sorry, it's still timing. And you can actually time yourself. Oh, I've got a couple wrong. The elbows and the, oh, I can see that. So, but I can, once I've done it though, I can retry and I can redo it again. So you can do it as multiple times as you want. So that's in your learning. Any comments on those so far? Before and after photo, that's a good idea, Julie. I'm just looking at the comments in the chat. Yeah, that could work really well. And I thought even like you could have a picture of a human body and then you could have different images, say the skeleton or different organs or whatever, and you could just run it across. That could work. Now we've got these broken up into interactive content. Now interactive content, we've got lots of different ones in here, and I thought I'd show you some of these examples so it sort of gets your mind thinking about what you could create. So the accordion is the first example. Now this one's pretty straightforward. It's just that you've got, and it's really making your content not so cluttered, that you can actually use the accordion where they can just look at a particular type of content and it expands. So that's quite a good one. The other one here, and I'm just having a look here. Okay. This one here, when I first look at the original example, I think, okay, this is, you know, it doesn't look that great, and so, but it has got a lot of potential. Like you can show different, like for instance, a map showing different things on a map. But I thought, oh, I'll have a play with this and create some examples. So I had a look on the internet for images and so forth. And this one, and you probably find these images on if you look at Google. But this one here, it says these are all different images, so I can actually create like a video. It's pretty cool, like that one. So showing the different paces of a horse. If I go back here and show you a couple of others. This was a skull one, not a very good image, but just showing that you could have different images. So you've got the frontal bone here, but as I move along, that one disappears, and then I'm showing a different, you know, different type bone structure. So, and it's just using different images along the way. So that could be something that you could use that would be interactive content. Okay, I'll just do that on there. Mark the words. Let's have a look at an example of this one. Oh, I've already done this one. Click on the various types of berries mentioned in the text below, and I've unfortunately checked it. So, okay, I can't reset that one. But it, yeah, you just drag the text into that one. I must have put a reset on it. Memory gain. This one is quite a good one, but I think for lower levels, and it has to be one that you can actually use an image with, so you can match the first and the second. And what it does when you do get it right, it actually says what the term is. And so it could be used for different parts of the computer, for instance. And I'll show you some of the examples that I did in here. So if we looked at memory gain. Oh, I haven't got my examples in this one. But yeah, so you can have parts of the computer that match, and once you're matching, it just brings the card up and says what it is. Speak the words. I thought this one was really good, actually. This one's asking a question, 2 by 2, push to speak, or, and it actually picked up my answer. How cool is that? I thought that was a really good one. Okay, go back here. And I'm just looking here, the timeline. This is an interesting one also too, if you want to show the different development of something over a period of time. You can have a timeline. So you can look at the origins, and it sort of says when the strawberry actually goes back to 2,200 years ago. And then it was first mentioned here, and then the Middle Ages. It's showing a painting that was done. Cultivation in Europe. New varieties. Commercial products. Strawberries in cosmetics. Strawberries worldwide. So you can see that you can put things on the timeline to show its development over time. And I think that could create a really nice interactive content rather than just having all text, that you could actually use this timeline. So that's with our interactive content. We also got presentation only, so you've got your charts, your collages, and things like that. Quiz questions. Now, I know we've got a quiz in Moodle, and if I was doing assessment, I would definitely use the quiz in Moodle, and it's really important that you do, because there is the quizzes in H5P. There's taught that they can be hacked, so they could be compromised. So you don't want to use them for assessment. So example of a quiz. This one is for arithmetic. Now this would probably fall really at the lower levels. You can solve multiplication, so you can do multiplication, subtraction, addition, and division. And so it starts off, and you can say how many questions you want to be in there. So it's sort of, and it, oh, I got it right the first time. And as I get it right, it gives me a mark. Now, if I get it wrong, it gives me a bad, and then shows me the correct answer. And it shows me the correct answer. So when I get to the end, it gives me my score. But then I can retry again. So that's the beauty of it. People can practice their multiplications, subtractions, And it could be that maybe you have something in here as if you're maybe even doing a lesson and you want them to do a calculation and they got it wrong. You can send them somewhere else and have this embedded so they can practice that calculation. That's just one way you can use it. But I think it's more for lower levels. Drag and drop example. So these ones, I've done them. I just did them before, just testing that they all worked. So now they're all correct in mine. But they would be down the bottom here, and then you just drag it and drop them into the correct area, and then you get a mark for them. I'll have to see if I can just put a reset button on those so people can do them multiple times. I'll have a look at this one. And this one was using like different images, and again the things were down the bottom. Unfortunately, I did them just not long ago just to make sure everything was working, and it's kept them there. Maybe I didn't. Oh, I did this one too. So you can have one image, you can have only one correct answer, and they have to drag it and drop it onto here. I found this one. This one was the, so you've got to look at the question at the top. What genus does the strawberry belong to? Drop the correct answer. When I first looked at this one, I didn't actually read it properly, and I was trying to move these all into the right place, and I kept on getting one right and two wrong, and I didn't know what was going on. But I didn't actually read the question properly. That was the only issue. This is one of the examples that are actually in the H5P. Okay, so fill in the blanks. So this one here, and as I say, I've done it just recently. So you're writing in the words. So these are blank, and you have to type them in. So if you want them to, to test them, not just by dragging and dropping and giving them too many clues, you can actually get them to write it in, and then they can check and verifying that I'm finished, and then I get a score. Now, all these quiz questions can be put into a different Moodle module. I'm so excited because you can now embed, which is really good. Since 3.3, you can embed. For instance, find the hotspot. These are really good. So it says, which one of these berries is named after a town in Turkey, which is this one. And you can now see here, embed. So now you can get the embed code, and you copy that, and then you paste it into Moodle. And I'll show you an example of that shortly. And I'll get to an example. Now, Flipboard allows them to create on the page and hidden from the learners, but embeddable into a book, etc. That's correct, Julie. Thank you for that. And we're going to show that in a second. Can each application be in a page or a page in a book, or do they need to be in each topic? Are you referring to the questions now, the quiz questions, Colin?
No, it's really talking about the applications themselves, what we're seeing on screen in your examples. You've got sitting in topics, basically.
Yeah.
So the question was, and it's been answered anyway.
Yeah. There's two ways. Yeah, there's two ways of doing it. You have to use the sleep because orphan activities is no longer available, and so the stealth feature, as Julie's mentioned in that comment, is where you can say that it's visible. The activity is available, but it's not visible to the student. Now you can put it in a topic that only the teacher sees, and hide that topic, but you have to make sure that you actually set the settings after you've hidden the topic. But I'll go into that in a bit more detail shortly because it can be a little bit complex. And I'll just show you how you can embed into a book in an example in a second. So drag and drop. We did that one. I'll just go to the next one. It's good to see what is available. I'm not showing you how to create these, but I'm just showing you what is available and how you could use it, really. Fill in the blanks. Again, I've done this one, but it's actually typed in. Actually type those in, and unfortunately I haven't got a reset button. I can't reset that one. I shouldn't have done all my activities before for the meeting, but I just wanted to make sure everything was working. Now this is an interesting one. This is multiple hotspots, so you could have images of lots of different things. And then so you have to create this as one image, and then you put the hotspots on. So the question here is find all the vegetables in the image. So if I click on carrots, click on broccoli, and say yes, great, you found 2 vegetables. The rest ones have got seeds, so they're not classed as vegetables. And we scroll down, so it's the multiple hotspots and the flashcards. Now, again, this is maybe for more lower levels. Oh, yeah, probably. Anyway, this one is an example where you've got to look at an image and say what city it's come from. So, for instance, the Eiffel Tower is Paris. Check, and it gives me a tick, and then it moves on to the next one. So we've got Big Ben. So we check. The White House. Now, it's not case sensitive. I've checked that, so that's really good. I suppose you could make it case sensitive if you wanted to. Check. And so you could go through and have a think about how you could use that. Good question, Jane. Other hotspots, okay, on mobile devices like an iPad and tablet. Yeah, I believe so, but we need to test it to make sure. And that's a good reply there. Thanks, Julie. And Taj Mahal, let me see. Is it Agra? Ah, good. Beautiful. All right, so, and then it says shows results, and I've got a tick. So if I've got one wrong, it'll just have a cross next to it. So it's a good way of testing memory again. So just different types of questions that you can use. The multiple choice, pretty straightforward. The question, what is the colour of blackberry? And I've already answered this one, so it's shown what I've put and correct. Go down. Often when you get it right, you don't get the retry button. So that's why you've probably seen where some of those ones I've already done, I've got it right, it hasn't allowed me to reset. But if I got it wrong, the retry button does come up. True and false, pretty basic, you know, we've got that in our quiz. And like if I can do it again and put no and check, and see now I've got the retry. I can retry and check, and it does give me the retry button. So that's why some of those ones I didn't get the retry. Okay, so there the quiz different types of quizzes. Any questions on that? Or results going to the grade book. You can say whether you want them to be graded or not. If I go to, now I'm just going to remember because the grade book's different now, isn't it? I'm just going to try and get into the grades. I might have to do it at the top here. I think it's now. Grades. Oh, I'm in as a PA. I'm sorry, I can't show you that at the moment. So I'll just go back to where I was. You can have them coming into the grade book if you want to, and I believe you can say you don't want it graded. Now, the only other type is dynamic interactive activities, and these are brilliant because you can show a video, and in that video you can have different parts along that video showing different questions. So you have a question from the video, why do people travel solo? Okay, so you can have and then from the video, why are people afraid of traveling alone? And so forth. So you can make it really interactive. Now we talked about the book, how you can embed in a book. So this is traveling solo embedded in a book. So you can have different videos or quizzes or all different things in a book. Now, for instance, if I wanted to put that video like this particular one in the book, if I click on the travelling solo, I see the embed code. So here's the embed code. I copy it, Control C, and then I go back to my book. And I add a page. I go to the HTML and I paste the HTML. Now I also can give them some instructions. I don't have to put that. We'll actually bring this up. Please watch the video and answer the questions. Save the changes. Saving. Or if I miss something, no, go there. Oh, there we go. So now it says, please watch the video and answer the question. So it's sitting inside here, which is fantastic, isn't it? Okay, so that's how you put it into a book. The column example is combination. You can, it's all those ones I showed you. You can actually put it into one. This is an example that they have done, which I think the image is probably a bit big, but this is the example. They've got an image, they've got some text, they've got a question, they've got a true and false, they've got information about the crew, and in Wikipedia you can go and have it, research it, and then you have to come back and you have to put what role that these people had. These would be sitting over the side here. So if I put them all back, and I can start again if I want to. So I don't know if the answers, I can't remember, but I would click them on. So it's just a hotspot really, isn't it? It's a hotspot video. And then I can put different ones in to find the hotspot and then check. So I've got 2 right and 4 wrong. And click on me to find out more about, so that's where you click on and find out who are the people. But it's a good learning tool, isn't it? Actually getting them to go off and do some research. So that's the column. I love the column one. I think it's fantastic. But now the fact that we can interact, like we can embed into a book or something like that, I think that's probably a better solution than the column. And course presentation of just this last one, and then we'll go over. This one is filling the. Oh, so okay, we'll go back to the start on this one. Okay, so it gives some information about a particular berry, and then you've got different tasks that you can do. And I think because I've done it, haven't I? That'd be right. It asks questions that you have to answer. Then it has another lot where you have to write in these, and you can check the answers. And then it goes along and another activity. And wrong answer. So not allow me to restart again. I'll have to see the settings on that one. Blueberries begin with a green, ripen, they turn blue, and then actually go purple. And I can check that. Oh, I've got the wrong way around. So I can retry. See, I've got the retry button now. So now I can actually put it in the right way. And we've got it right. So there's lots of different, how many varieties of blueberries exist? Oh God, I can't remember this question. I'll give that a go. No, retry. Ah, there you go. All right. So what's everyone think of the H5P? Any comments? Fantastic. Yeah, it is, Julie. I think it's just given us so much more now, more control about what we can create. And what I think is really good is just makes it more interactive for the students. And we don't have to use form packages, which are not my favourite things, like, and they're expensive, like Articulate and a few others. Interactive, yes. Looks good, great that it can be embedded. And I think I'm just so excited about that, because before you had to create an account, and that was the only way you could account with H5P, and that was the only way you could embed. But the problem with that is, as an institute, you would lose all your IP because it'd be going to someone's own personal account. At least this way, when it's developed in the Moodle, you can get the embed code, and you can embed it into a book, into a page, into a label, whatever, wherever you want to put it, into a forum. It gives us so much more flexibility. And the thing is, with the new self feature, is that you can hide it from the students. Now, for instance, I'm just showing this one here is showing I've got to go to the right section, sorry. This one here. I can have a book, and I can have all these activities linking to my H5P activity, and I can have them down the bottom here and see available but not shown on the course page. So the student cannot see this. They can't see those, but they're available to them in the actual book, so they can get access to them, but they don't see what the original. The beauty of that is that if something needs to change, the teacher or the developer can go in and change something, and it would automatically update. So I think that's a really good thing. The only thing you've got to be aware of is if I back up this file and restore it again, what's happening at the moment is that the embed code is looking at the original shell. So you would have to redo the embed code, which is, not that difficult. So when you backed up the file, the Moodle shell, restored it, you would just have to redo the HTML embed links for the activity. But as long as you know where they are, that's fine. Now I'm going to pass over to Julie first, because Julie's going to show us the games plugin and some of the features that you can create with that plugin. Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Christine. Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Julie. I guess you can see that on the screen. I'm just going to find my screen here, and then I'm going to share it. So just bear with me a moment while I locate it. I think this is the one I'm after. I'm just going to start that again, I think. What's that? I'll go back, share screen. And desktop 2, that's the one.
How long have you had the games plugin, Julie?
We've had it for as long as I can remember, so yeah. That's been a while. It's used sporadically. It can be a little bit glitchy depending on whether you've got glossaries. Some of the games only suit a quiz. Some of them will suit the glossary, and they gather their evidence from, or their suggested questions from your glossary or a quiz. So it's based on the gamification type of activity, so they're really meant for fun. But as Colin mentioned earlier, they can go into the gradebook. And if I look at the gradebook here, you'll see where they've appeared. So I've got crosswords, and you can see they're appearing in here, set in the gradebook, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the way. Because it can all be configured. So here is one I've done, and I've based this one on my glossary that I've created in this Moodle shell called Moodle Tools, online learning tools, and the topic's Moodle Tools. And you'll see here at the top I've got some instructions I've put in, and here is the content which is coming from the glossary, which was an interactive glossary that was designed to be completed by learners as well as educators in this unit. And I can either read the wording down below for the questions, or I can just simply put my mouse in the middle of a word somewhere and it will come up with the question that relates to it. So if I go this one here, and this is a fairly simple one to answer, and you can see it's instantly added to it. So I would say that the games plugin is really just for furthering knowledge or providing learners with opportunities just to review what they've learnt, rather than as a formal learning assessment activity.
Can I ask?
And they can come back and do it anytime. Yep, somebody has a question?
Yeah, I've got a question for you. So
Yep.
the crossword would be, the size of the crossword would depend on how much content is in the glossary.
Yes. So if I look here on my settings, here we have, I've taken it from the Moodle glossary. I've really set it to the basic default settings. Here are the grades, the maximum number of attempts. If you wanted to stipulate that, you could say that. You got your high score, you got your grades if you wanted to include that. Your crossword options, now you could limit that, or you could make it larger. So the default is 0. I haven't tweaked it anyway.
Yeah.
Etc. I've not allowed any spacings in words. So, you know, obviously there might be some things in a glossary where it could be 2 words. So you might have to think about those types of things if you were creating a crossword. So if I go back to my attempt here, and you can see I've done a few. Again, there's the crossword. So it's fairly simple. I think this is assignment. There we go.
Beautiful.
So the crossword's pretty easy. The next one I have is Hangman. So that's an old game from people of about my age, I think. I don't know if it's a game that's played by the younger generation these days, but and you know that's how it works. So basically you've got your letters here. Here is the hangman, and if I get more wrong, obviously it's going to hang me. I'm going to be hung in the end. So this question is a collection of web pages that anyone can add to or edit, and I think it's wiki. So there we go. Yep. So there's a W and then the I, and you can see, so there's the K left over. It's pretty simple, very, very simple game, and students can just do it again and again and again. Obviously, if I say a new, I would presume it would come up with a separate one. Yes, another one again. So we've got a different one here. I think, yeah, we know what that one is too. So the next one I have is Millionaire. And I've already phoned a friend here because I wasn't sure of this one. So as soon as I come up here, I don't know if anyone knows the game really well. I wasn't a huge fan of Millionaire, so I know it a little bit. But there was the phone a friend option if you couldn't get the answer. There was the help of people. So obviously you've got a few people here to help. So if you use those options, then when you click on them, then you obviously have used your opportunities already. So you can see here the question is stated here, which Moodle activity allows educators to create and conduct surveys to collect feedback. Over on the right, obviously we have our grading as we move up. Now if I come over here and I get this correct, obviously there's the key term. And we can see I've moved over from 100, I'm now on the 200 question. So which web-based platform enables educators to upload video tech? Okay, I think that is VoiceThread. Yep. And then this is lesson. So you can see how I'm moving through. So it's very simple. It's not as attractive as I'd say H5P is. This is very simple games in Moodle. I'd have to say the H5P wins it for me. The game plugin has been around many, many years, so it's probably seen its heyday. I think it's going to be eclipsed very shortly by H5P. Here's snakes and ladders, and you can see I've started this game already. Here I am on the little star here, and I have the question up here, and I have to actually add my answer in. And it's the funny thing with Moodle things, it is case sensitive. So the glossary, I've used capitals, so I'll have to make sure I put a capital at the start of this answer here. So allows participants to have real-time synchronous discussion. So I think that is forum, or is it a forums? Anyway. So we haven't gone anywhere, so I'm still on 15. So I didn't get that one right because it probably was forums. So there's a downfall of it. Be very careful if you are creating it based on your questions and instructions to students that they have to be word perfect. And that's probably a downfall of this type of thing. So you can see if I'll move through, and I would move as I progress through, I go from 16, 17 and onwards up the ladder, or up the board until I come perhaps to a ladder, in which might make me go down here back to number 3. So I think I have one more, and that was Sudoku. I've never really been a fan of Sudoku, and here in my setup of this one, I've obviously got a very large Sudoku, but in actual fact my glossary and quiz are only filling the first 3 blocks. And these other ones here don't have any suggestions. And I've gone back to tweak my Sudoku in my settings, but I don't seem to have the option of reducing that. From what I can see, I've only got the grade and the options here, maximum number of questions. I thought by adding only 10 it would be fine, but the default was 0, and it still showed all those blocks. So it's not really giving me a nice visual. So here I have the questions here, and as soon as I answer one, I need to grade my answers so that then I can see which blocks have been opened up with the correct answer. So for delivering content in flexible ways, and this is lesson because Colin's going to be doing this one next. So now you can see I've actually answered a couple, and you can see the numbers are appearing now. Synchronous, asynchronous discussions, that's chat. And, oh, sorry, so that's forums, I think. Well, maybe it's forum. Did I not get that right last time? Yep, okay, so that was forum. So you can see how it works. They're very simple. They're hardly attractive looking. And as I've mentioned already, I think H5P's eclipsed the functionality here with all the lovely things that H5P can do. But it does appear in the gradebook, as you can see, if you need that to occur for your learners. But obviously, we would recommend you use them for just learning activities, or for students that might be interested, if you've set up your Moodle using the instructional design, the Thiagi 4-door model, which it sounds like a car, but it's actually, his model was based on the 4 points where learners need to go. One would be the social or the cafe, one would be the library or the resources, the other one would be the torture chamber, which could be where the assessments are, and the last one would be the game centre where the students would play. So that's an interesting model to think about. So unless anyone's got any questions, that's pretty much me.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Julie. I really appreciate it, because that's the first time I've seen that too. So really, yeah. And like, I mean, it has its place. And I do like the crossword, because if it does pick up the things from a forum, from a glossary or a, yes. Where else does it come from? The quiz, was it? The question bank.
Yep.
Question bank.
Yeah. Question bank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, be great for revision. But I'm not sure how expensive the plugin would be. It's
a freebie. Okay. So it's not a paid plugin. It's a freebie.
Yeah.
So it is available from Moodle.
Yeah.
.org. I have noticed there were some errors occurring in the plugin for me, and I've been to the Moodle site, and there are some bugs noted, and they're working on them. So It is a little bit Yep.
Yeah.
That's just something to be aware of.
Yeah. We work with, I'm part of a group that all our Moodle's being supported by eWorks. And if we choose a new plugin, we've got to pay for it to be tested and so forth.
Okay.
So it's usually about $1,200 to $1,500 a plugin.
Yeah.
So we have to be really selective about which plugins we choose. Yeah.
Of course. Yep.
But,
and I think H5P does this hands down, really.
yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Oh, so many options, isn't there?
Yeah. Look, this has been around for a long time, so it's been a useful tool for teachers and students that might like this type of learning.
Yeah.
But it's probably seen its heyday, as I've already said.
Yeah. No. Thank you so much for sharing, because I really love the opportunity to see what it could actually do. Now, in Moodle, of course, we've got lots of different things that we can use for activities. You've got your forums, you've got your chats, you've got your books, you've got pages, but there's the lesson, and the lesson is the one that it's a little bit more complex to use, but it has such great features. And now that you can embed your H5P into it as lesson 2, I think, it's got endless possibilities. Now, Colin has been working with the lesson, so I've asked Colin to show us what he's been doing and some of the things that you need to be aware about when you start using a lesson in Moodle. So, Colin, would you like to share your screen?
Yep. Hi, everyone. First of all, this is what I look like, but I'll turn it off for 2 reasons. My my internet's a bit dodgy, and secondly, I don't want to put you off your lunch. But yeah, look, in terms of lessons, I had used it once before and found it quite difficult to understand. And so I didn't get very far. So just last week I started experimenting again, and I'll try and share this one. Hang on. There's always lots of screens open, isn't there? Sorry, nearly there.
That's fine.
Can't find what I'm looking for at the moment.
Has anyone in the chat just write whether you've used a lesson before, and if so, how did you use it?
Now, are you seeing the nature photography one?
Yes.
Good. Okay. And just yell out if there's any chat coming through. I'm not very good at multitasking. So now in this lesson that I've set up already, now what you're seeing, of course, is an editor view. So it's not exactly the same as what a teacher would see, but just to quickly show you, and the content of it, maybe it needs work, but essentially a lesson is made up of really 2 types of pages. And I guess the most important thing to say about the lesson is it's a way of presenting learning content to students so that they can progress or be directed depending on what they know already. I think that's probably what you would primarily use a lesson for, and it is a very good tool for that purpose. Like most Moodle things, it has all its idiosyncrasies, and I think they're probably one of the harder ones to learn how everything is set up. The other thing to say about them is you could actually set a lesson up to be a book. So instead of using the book facility, you could use a lesson for that. The advantage of it would be that you can actually have your own buttons on a content page. So instead of being tied into the language and the arrow types that a book uses, you can actually have your own buttons. So that'd be an advantage of that. Another advantage is you could ask questions along the way. So the lessons that you put together, you're going to sort of design them. It's either a kind of a linear approach where you might, in this case, this is my very first screen, I might ask a student a question, which we've done here, and if they respond in a certain way, and in this case, this is a multi-choice question, then click the submit button. Then you can give feedback to that student at that time. When they use the continue button, the buttons are called jumps, and you, when you're the designer, have the control of where that button goes to. So in this case, this is not deemed a correct response, so my jump takes the learner to an area where you can deliver content to them about that particular topic. And that might be that you have a whole series of pages. You might have H5P here. You could have a whole host of these things, in this case a YouTube video. And what I've done with this is there's a little branch of a selection of content pages. So what we're looking at the moment is a content page, which, you know, once again, it simply has text in it. In this case, a video. I could have graphics, H5P, etc. Once the learner's done whatever they're going to do with it, you can provide up to 4 buttons on the bottom of the content page that let the learner go or branch to different locations. In this case, it takes me to yet another content page and another one. And in this case, my last button redirects the learner back to the original question page. So it's sort of going around in a loop. If they answer the question correctly in this design, they get appropriate feedback saying, yep, that's right, and continue, and now they're in my design being presented with a new question. So for this style, if the learner knew all the answers, they would simply progress through the question pages based on the way it's set up. So you have an enormous amount of flexibility. I'm just going into an edit screen and I will collapse that at the moment. That is now showing you all of the different pages that are in this particular lesson in the way that I've set it up. So you can see it indicates the type of page. Now in this case, the very first one is in fact a question page, but the question type is multi-choice. Then I had 3 content pages, and then I've got a multi-choice. Now it doesn't matter, the order that these pages are listed in this edit screen is irrelevant. It's a case of how you've set the jumps up in each particular page of the lesson. And perhaps we'll just look at the settings of this one and look, it's very difficult to explain it all in this shorter period of time, but we'll have a quick look at the configuration of that particular page. All pages have a title, obviously, like everything in Moodle, so you give it a name and something meaningful and different for each one so that you can direct. Now that name is what you use to direct a jump. Now here's my sort of overall statement called the page content, and then down here, because this is a multiple choice question, it'll look different than other question types, but here I've made a statement, and that's one of the dot points, if you like, that a student has to answer to. So it's named answer rather than necessarily question, but it's presented as a question to the learner. Below that, response is actually the feedback that they get if they've selected this particular question. and then where, if they do select that question or that response, I suppose, then here is my jump control, which is directing the student where they can go. Now, as you add more and more pages to this lesson, you get more choices of where you can jump to. But you also do have some default jump to locations, which are this page, next page, previous, and the end of the lesson. So they're sort of default things that come before you've produced pages. So I guess the biggest thing to say in relation to lessons is when I started to try to do them, like most people, or maybe it's just me, I like to try and jump in there and make it work and not read anything, and found that that just didn't work. So the next step for me was that I tried the Moodle Docs section, and if I just try my share again, sorry. Where's it gone? There it is. And go to... I made up my own tutorial, but what I was going to say in relation to the Moodle docs, I found them very hard to follow, mainly because of the language they use, and that I, once again, can't be bothered reading the lot and try and do it and make it work. So that's saying something about me. But anyway, look, in the end, I've found that several people had said to me that the way a lesson would work best is you must design it, and that's absolutely right. But the problem with that when you're learning in the first place is you have to know how a page works, or how the different pages work, before you can design it, if you see what I mean. So that's what makes the initial use of a lesson very slow and cumbersome. So I'd really recommend that you have to get in and mess around, play around for a while, see what the pages do, and I think after that you've got a better chance of doing the design. So just in relation to the different question types, so question pages can be essay, matching, multi-choice, numerical, short answer, true, false. And I'm just aware that it is 1 o'clock now, so I'll finish off there.
Just a question then, Colin, from Glenn. Would it be fair to say, Colin, that although the output to the gradebook is one item, the teacher can get in there and see the individual result to questions along the way in a lesson? And is it possible to copy, to get a copy of your instructions from Joanne?
Yeah, look, and I'd like to make that shareable, and so
I can do that for you, Colin.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great. So you know where to get it, Christine. That'd be fantastic. So just very quickly, so there are those different types, and there are different ways they behave based on, in other words, how many jumps you can have depending on the question type. So that's worth thinking about. Just very quickly, you know, I've got a number of guide pages in there. There's just a sort of a concept of what I would do now if I designed. So I'm sort of saying, you know, to simulate a book, it's just a linear approach. But the really important thing when you do that design work is that as you draw these little boxes and say, I'm going to progress from this one to that one and so on, write in a brief description of what that particular page is meant to do. Because what I find is dodgy memory, come back tomorrow and I'm thinking, what the heck was I doing there? So if you don't have a little description of it, particularly if you get into a more complex design, like this sort of branching kind of concept, then you've got no idea what you're doing. So you really need to do that. And the second part, and what I did was made up little templates of the kind of data that you would enter to each page type, and so that you could use as a template. So if I was producing a lesson now, I would grab all of these, put them into a Word document, type in all of the data and maybe put in my graphics and whatever, say which ones I'm jumping to, have all of that done before I actually make it within Moodle itself. That's kind of what I'd be thinking. It's just much easier to edit, and you can deal with a lot at once. When you're in Moodle, you're only dealing with each individual page at a time, so you've got to go in and out from an editing point of view. So one last little thing, I'll just jump back to the other page, if you're okay with that.
Yes, certainly.
Shouldn't take long. Did I get the right one?
So in relation to Glenn's question, there's a spot in the lesson that the teacher can see what the students are doing. Is that correct?
Look, unfortunately, I can't answer it. I'm not sure of that one. I haven't really messed around with the grading of it much, but I know obviously there is a grading. So sorry, can't answer.
Can I jump in there?
Thanks,
sorry,
Glenn.
I did ask a question I knew the answer to, shamefully, and the answer is yes. All the multiple choice questions, everything's there basically for the teacher. Maybe at another time we could have a look at how you get in there and look at that.
Yeah,
right.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, Glenn. Yeah, look, I was thinking that would be the case, but I didn't want to say anything that I don't know. Back on this edit screen, when you are in the collapse mode or expanded, it doesn't matter, but for each individual page, the tools here allow you to quickly go in and either edit your page or preview your page. So those are really useful tools, particularly once your lesson starts to get long. So that's probably about it for now. It's the sort of thing you've got to mess around with, not easy.
Yep. Thank you so much for sharing, Colin. That is fantastic. And the lesson, I think, is a tool or a module in Moodle that's probably not used as much as it should be, because it has got great potential. But I think a lot of it is to do with not really knowing how to use it. And there's a lot of pre-planning, as you have mentioned, Colin, in setting it up. But thank you for enabling me to share that those instructions to the community of practice. And I think if everyone has a bit of a go at it, we might be able to show each other what we've created. So that'd be really good. Very good. So thanks everyone for attending today. I'll put the recording up in the Facebook page and also in the invitation for the next meeting, which will be in a month's time. And I'll send an invitation out for that. Okay, so thanks everyone again, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Bye.
Bye.